Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Training Tuesday. My name is Briston Kohler, and I am a summer intern here at Dayton Superior in the marketing department. Today, we have an expert in the Steel-Ply department who is excited to talk to you guys. Before we get to today's presenter and presentation, I just want to remind everyone that you are all muted so that we don't have any distractions or background noise during the presentation. Don't let that stop you, and feel free to ask questions through the chat functionality in Zoom, and I will ask your questions at the end of the presentation. In addition, this presentation is also being recorded so that you can re-listen or potentially share with someone that couldn't make it or you think might find this beneficial. Today's presentation will be covering all things Steel-Ply, which means going over handset applications, types of forms, panels and fillers, types of tie applications, connecting hardware, and even more. Your presenter today is Tyler Shaner, Director of Engineering for Symons Forming. Tyler knows forming. He is Dayton Superior's Director of Engineering for Symons Forming and has a Bachelor's in Science degree in Civil Engineering from Iowa State University. In addition, he has an Executive Master's degree in Business, and when you pair his education with his experience in the construction industry, he makes a great educator for any of the Symons Forming systems. Tyler has been in the industry for 26 years, including stops at companies such as Kiewit, EFCO, Formwork, and Perry, and has been with Dayton Superior for 18 years. Go ahead and take it away, Tyler.
All right, thank you very much. First, thanks for this opportunity. I'm always excited to talk about forming. Been in it for a while, and especially when I can talk about a great product that's known as well as it is out in the marketplace, such as Steel-Ply. So a couple quick notes regarding Steel-Ply. It's been around in the industry for close to 70 years now. It can be ganged, it can be handset. We're going to focus today at a high level on the handset applications. And as well, we do a 1 to 2 day training just on Steel-Ply. So I'm going to condense that down, stay real high level for the next 15 to 20 minutes and talk about this great system. So first, I want to talk a little history with you, just one quick slide on it. The Symons brand has actually been around for over 120 years, since 1901. And during that time, there's been a lot of innovations come through that brand. You can see in the upper right-hand corner, starting with the 1918 column clamps, which is just a simple, steel scissor clamp that they used to help form columns out in the market. And then in 1945, you can see the wood ply, which, if you look at it, is very similar to today's Steel-Ply. So it's kind of predecessor to the Steel-Ply system you see today. You can see the outline of it there, but it was all wood. And then in 1953, Arthur H. Simon had the patent for what would eventually become Steel-Ply. And since that time, and especially as the patent ran out on that system, now out there close to 70 years, there have literally been tens of millions of square foot of this product manufactured out in the marketplace today. But one thing that we're talking about today and is really a badge that is great with the Diamond S out there in Symons is that Steel-Ply is the original. That's the original name. That's the original system. So first, a quick look at some of the benefits, features and benefits of the system. I won't touch on all of these, just some key ones, because we'll touch on more of these as we go through the presentation. It is lightweight, about 5 pounds per square foot, so one person can easily grab one of these panels and set it in place. It's got a known pour rate for your crew, 1,000 pounds per square foot. It's a modular form system, so I'll talk about that a little bit more. So versus a wood system where you've got measuring to do, drilling the tie holes and so forth, this does not have that. The hardware connections, the panel connections are easy and quick. Basically, someone with a hammer can go out there and put this system together. It's a steel frame, and literally there are panels out there in the marketplace, I can tell you from history of being a competition, that have been out there for decades. So the frame lasts a very long time. And also, with hundreds of different standard sizes of panels, fillers, the rental fleet out there, it's very versatile. and contractors can adapt it to just about any project need that they have out there. Let's talk about some of the basics. I mentioned handset form system. So when we say handset, that's literally what it is. You know, one person can grab one of these panels, pick it up, set it into place, and then, you know, strip it the same way, right? And it's a system. So it's designed with accessories, smaller fillers, smaller panels, and products that the ties as well, that to be used together are a form system. 5 pounds per square foot. So the standard panel size, the most common, is 2 foot by 8 foot. That panel weighs about 78 pounds. You see the frame there, a little bit closer view of it. You've got a steel frame around the outside, and there's a 1/2-inch plywood face that's inset into that frame. So we'll talk a little bit more about the frame itself as well as the plywood. A little bit deeper here. So like I mentioned, over 100 panels and fillers, right? So you've got panels and you got fillers. So as we define that, a panel is anything at 24 inches wide. So that's your standard width of a form. So 24 by 8 foot, 6 foot, 5 foot, 4 foot, and so on. Anything under that 24 inches in width, we call a filler. So 4 inches up to 22 inches, a 5-inch, are all called fillers. All those fillers that are 4 inches and above get a wood face. And then we have all steel fillers, which are 1 inch, 1.5, and 2 inch. You can see over to the right, a 2 inch by 3 foot steel filler. It's a simple U-shaped piece of steel with the wedge bolt slots in the side there. We also have an adjustable column form, 30 inches wide. You can see down there in the picture, that's a very classic picture that we've shown over the years. You can kind of get a feel for the breadth of all the different panels and filler sizes. The 30 inches are clear in the left there. So let's take a closer look at the form itself, some of the identification of the form. So the outside frame, the steel rail, as we call it, have your 2 side rails. So those rails on the side, that tells you how tall the panel is, which we'll talk about in the next slide, how you determine how tall the panel is. And then the ones on the top and bottom, we call the end rails. Okay, then horizontal across it, welded to either side rail, you have a cross member. And that cross member is what's called an equal leg angle. And that means that of that angle, that steel angle, it's 2 inches by 2 inches. Both legs are of equal length. Okay? You have a corner brace up there in all 4 corners. That corner brace, that's one of those changes that we've made over time with the system. It used to be just a strap in the corner. Now we have a more solid, rigid connection out in the field. That's where you see a lot of damage as these are dropped and move around on the job site in the corners. So that full corner brace helps support those corners. And you can see the plywood face. So that 1/2-inch plywood face, our standard now for the past couple of years is now a 7-ply PSF birch product. We also supply a 5-ply HDO product. So the PSF and the HDO, PSF stands for phenolic surface finish, and then the HDO is high density overlay. Those are basically 2 different resins that are put on to the face of the plywood and give you a nice smooth finish. The plywood is attached to the frame with rivets as well, which obviously how many varies by the size of the panel. So if you're out there in the field or if you're in a yard and you've got a stack of them, of steel ply out there, and you want to kind of identify, you know, how do I know what size this is? If you can see the back side of the panel, it becomes fairly easy to see how tall the panel is. So on the left, the cross members can tell you how tall that panel is. They're placed 12 inches on center. So you can count it a couple different ways. You can count the number of cross members, add 1, and that's your height, or the number of spaces in between the cross members. So in this one, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cross members. add one. This is an 8-foot tall form, okay? The end rails, all of the end rails that are 10 inches and wider have a wedge bolt slot. So as you're looking there in the middle, you can see those slots that are punched into the rails. Those are wedge bolt slots. So those are 6 inches on center from either end. So you can get a good idea if you look at the end rails of how big that panel is as far as width is. Another way, if they're in a stack and you can't see the cross members to tell the height, on the far right, if you look at the side rail, the slots are placed at 6 inches on center, just as the end rails. And you also have through dados, which are where the ties go. We'll talk about the ties in a little bit. Those are 12 inches on center. So it's a matter of counting number of slots at 6 inches, and you can get to your height again. So we're going to talk about a number of the key accessories of the Steel-Ply system. There are several, but I kind of honed in on some of the key ones here. Obviously, the first one is a wedge bolt, and this is your main method of attachment. Both, your panels, 2 panels together, you're going to have a horizontal wedge bolt and then a vertical that comes down and clamps the 2 together. It is also used in a lot of different accessory attachments. You'll see the scaffold bracket here in a moment and a few others. Where there's a tie location, the horizontal also goes through the tie and through the 2 rails, and that's what sets your wall width and attaches the tie to your 2 forms. 1-piece whaler clamp in the center. So this is using to straighten a long run of the Steel-Ply panels. When they put them up in a row, they'll attach this 1-piece whaler clamp, typically 6 inches down from the top. And then they use 2x4 lumber behind it. And as soon as you clamp those down, that straightens your form out. It's only needed on one side of the wall. As soon as you straighten one side, the other side will straighten to it. So if you got it straight up and down horizontally, now you need it plumbed vertically, right? So it needs to be straight up and down. An accessory we have for Steel-Ply are turnbuckles. There's 2 different turnbuckles, main styles that we have: a straight plate, which is the one that's shown there in the rendering, and a bent plate. They're used for, again, vertically plumbing the walls. The contractor will attach a 2x4 or 2x6 lumber to that and plumb the wall in that manner. It's important to note these are not used for braces. So like we have our tilt wall bracing line, take wind loads and things like that. These are used for plumbing is their main use. Scaffold bracket. So this is important for safe access to the system itself, especially during pours. So contractor will attach these to the form. You can see the scaffold bracket rendering to the left. These are OSHA tested and approved. The contractor provides the wood planking, the vertical posts, any rails that are required. Typically, we say 8 foot on maximum on spacing. They do have a load rating, again, tested to OSHA standards. So depending on what's happening with the job, that may be a little tighter than 8 foot. But these also use a wedge bolt horizontally through the rails. You can see in the drawing there in the ISO, horizontally a wedge bolt goes through, and then there's an S wedge that's attached to the scaffold bracket assembly that drives vertically down to attach it. And the one on the right, obviously important as crews are working on the system, a safety eye. It is OSHA tested and approved for a tie-off location. It's easy to attach your safety belts to this product. It actually has a wedge bolt welded to it. That goes horizontally through two rails, and then a loose wedge bolt driven down vertically. And then finally, there's a nail that's driven into the plywood, so that kind of locks it in so it doesn't want to work its way out. It's important to note with this, when they do this and they're working on the system, that the wall is properly braced. Otherwise, you could have an issue there. Final one that I'm going to show as far as accessories is what I view as a really important one, an insert or a filler angle. We have these for just about every forming line that we have, and they really are a money saver, a time saver on a job site. You know, you want to use your modular forms as much as possible, but we all know there's cases where you have pipes penetrating or a lot of rebar or another way that you've got to either cut into your formwork, which is the more expensive route, or you've got to leave a space for that pipe or that rebar to come through. This filler angle attaches again with wedge bolts to your side rail, and then the contractor can put 3/4 inch plywood, screw it or nail it to the filler angle. You know, up to 12 inches you can do wider, but up to 12 inches without additional support, and then you're saving yourself, you know, sending back a damaged form. Now you've got a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, and the filler angle's rented. So it's one of those that, in my mind, every time a job goes out, whether it's on a bill of material or not, some of these filler angles, insert angles should go out regardless. You never know. Something comes up on a job just about every time where you need something like this. Okay, ties. So there's two main types of ties for steel ply. The S or round tie, you can see the top one there on the right, and the X flat tie. So obviously S round tie is round and the X flat tie is flat, right? You can see the different capacities over there. The heavy duty X flat tie at 7,000 pounds ultimate, safe working load of 3,500. So all ties use a 2-to-1 factor of safety. So when we design it to that safe working load capacity of 3,500. The S panel tie is a little under that. The heavy duty is about 6,000 or 3,000 safe working load. So both of them connect through the dados and the side rails, and they're both connected with wedge bolts again, you know, that common connection piece of equipment. And the tie is what sets your wall thickness, and that's how they're ordered. So if you have a 12-inch wide wall, you order a 12-inch S panel tie or a 12-inch X flat tie. A couple more quick things on the ties. You know, one reason why you may want to use an S panel over an X flat, you can see that the S panel tie, how it goes through the dados and the side rail, it gives you a little bit more flexibility as far as up and down for rotation on that tie to hit the other side of your wall. The X flat tie goes all the way through the dados, front and back, and it's kind of locked in a position, so it doesn't have that ability to flex in there. One item I didn't mention on the previous slide, the X flat tie has what's called a 1/4 inch break back, and the S panel has a standard 1-inch break back. And that break back is how far the tie breaks back from the face of the concrete when the tie is broken off. So the X flat tie is a 1/4 inch back, the round tie is 1 inch back. Another less common use, but it does come up over there in the two renderings to the right, are bent ties. These are made to order based on what the job requires. So if you have a T intersection where you can't quite have your panels lined up, get your ties lined up, or an odd corner situation like you see there, we can manufacture ties specific to that problem. So let's talk about some of the markets. Steel ply really is a product that I've seen used, and I'm sure that most of us have. It's used just about everywhere. It really is. It's very versatile. But here's some of the key areas that we see it being used in. Residential, whether it's single or multi-residential walls. Subdivisions, if you go around subdivisions, a lot of times you'll see different formwork, but odds are you're going to see a Diamond S on the backside of a panel, a steel ply panel up in the air. It's always great to see. Multi-residential, if you go down into, for example, Central South America, you'll see a full condo level done in steel ply. In some cases, they'll actually do the soffit or the roof of that condo at the same time in steel ply and support it with shoring and pour it all at the same time. So multi-single-use residential walls. On the right-hand side there, you see round or circular walls. We didn't really talk about it so far, but these can be used in a circular method. You know, grain bin foundations, radius retaining walls, other circular structures on treatment facilities, things like that. So we do use it quite often in radius applications. Other applications, columns. This is a great form for columns, especially up to 24 inches wide. You know, you've got all those different sizes of fillers and panels that you can use for your walls and do them tileless. We also have the adjustable I mentioned way at the beginning that does all the way up to 30 inches wide. So you've got great options for columns. Taller walls. So again, we didn't talk about ganging or bigger walls in this. We focused on handset, but they can be stacked. Steel ply can be stacked, so you can do much taller walls, as you can see there. And then even a building sign. That one happens to be here at corporate in Miamisburg several years ago. Cores, you can do the interior of the core in steel ply and exterior. You can see interior core in that bottom left, the one in the center there. That's the interior of a core being picked all at once. And then you pick the outside gangs together to do core walls. Our Australian team actually has had great success in Australia doing some cores, so it's taken off there pretty well. And also industrial power civil work as well. That's a STG or a steam turbine generator. There in that picture on the right, and you've got a steel ply form there ready to go up on the top. It's being supported off the columns by Maxform STS and Soldier underneath. As soon as it's supported up there, you know, steel ply can get up there and form the sides of that deck up there. It'd be similar to how the system is used in a bridge cap application as well. Okay, so a lot of information there in those slides. There's a lot more for steel ply, and you can get all of this stuff on the Dayton Superior website. You can get right to the steel ply homepage, but there's a brochure application guide there, very detailed application guide. Safety and ID sheets are there as well, and those come out with our application drawings if our engineering team is producing drawings for you. And the last thing are there's dozens of technical data sheets on some of the items I spoke about here, as well as many others. So a lot of information out there for you for steel ply. So that's what I got. Thanks
awesome.
Again.
Thank you so much, Tyler. That was amazing. I want to thank all of you guys again for joining us today. As a reminder, we have these every Tuesday on different subject matters with different experts such as Tyler. As I said before, today's presentation has been recorded and in a short few hours will be available on our training site located on DaytonSuperior.com. An email will also get out to let you know that it is there. And I want to remind everyone again that if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and Tyler and I will get to them momentarily. And thank you guys again for coming out today. And any more questions? And again, check out our website, DaytonSuperior.com, for more information on the steel ply and to register for next week's Training Tuesday if that subject interests you. And I'm not seeing any questions. I'll give it a little bit longer. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you again for coming out, and I'm going to guess there's no questions. Hopefully you guys learned some today, and for more information on training, please contact training@DaytonSuperior.com, and the great man Chuck Hope will get back to you, and you guys can talk about your needs and wants. Thank you, guys, and everyone have a terrific Tuesday.